our session focusing in on connecting hydrogen across the globe. It's a real pleasure for me to be here with you this afternoon and a warm welcome again at the European Union Pavilion. We have a very exciting and expert panel lined up for you this afternoon when we will be diving into connecting hydrogen valleys across the globe. And it's very clear that hydrogen is, of course, the rock star of the clean energy transition. And hydrogen valleys are a very important instrument in order to roll out the hydrogen economy at the global level. And we are particularly pleased here to focus on the Hydrogen Valley instrument because hydrogen valleys are a local or regional ecosystem covering the entire hydrogen value chain, where hydrogen is produced locally and then is also used in at least 2 end-use applications still at the same geographical location. And I think this is offering really a very good example of how we need to work together between the public and the private sector. And I think many of you in the past days at COP have heard about the importance of enhancing collaboration if we want to be successful and accelerate our transitions. And hydrogen valleys are really a very important instrument to foster those collaborations between public-private sector, between different investors, and also between the research community and the industry community. Hydrogen valleys are also a very important showcase to citizens of the fact that we have already very good solutions available in order to accelerate the clean energy transition. From the European Commission side, we are very pleased to collaborate with the private sector in our Clean Hydrogen Partnership, where we are co-investing with the partnership over 2 billion euros in order to accelerate and build up the hydrogen economy, again covering the entire hydrogen value chain. With the Repower EU plan, the Commission invested an additional 200 million euros in the Clean Hydrogen Partnership in order to double the number of hydrogen valleys in the European Union and to make sure that we roll it out everywhere in the European Union, not only in the north, in the south, also in the east and the west. And even though hydrogen valleys are born in Europe, the whole concept has been embraced also globally. In Mission Innovation, which is a collaboration of 23 countries and the European Commission, there is a mission focusing on clean hydrogen. And one of the objectives of this mission is to have at least 100 hydrogen valleys across the globe by 2030. And it's really amazing to see that we are very well on track, because today we already have 90, that is a 9 and a 0, hydrogen valleys across the globe delivered. It's also great to see that other countries are really stepping up their investments in hydrogen valleys. For example, in the US, President Biden announced the support to 7 large hydrogen valleys. In India, there was a call for hydrogen valley innovation clusters, and also in Latin America and African countries, the hydrogen valleys are being developed. Most of the hydrogen valleys, however, are still in the early stage of development, and therefore it is very important to discuss the remaining key challenges to really roll out the hydrogen valleys and make sure that they move up, they scale up, and also that they start producing really at big scale. So before we will be hearing from our expert panel on what we can do more in order to roll out the hydrogen valleys, connecting them together and really showcasing that the hydrogen economy can move from niche to scale, let's first start with a little Slido question, just to make sure that the audience that is here with us in Dubai, but also you online, are really tuned into our session. So we move to Slido, and we have a question for you. We would like to know from you what you consider as the main challenge for rolling out the hydrogen valleys. So if we can see the slide with the Slido connection, and then we can ask all of you to participate. And whilst we are waiting for you to connect and type in your wisdom, maximum 2 words, let me already start by introducing our amazing panel. And I would like to start with you, Gerald, because I see that you're on your phone doing Slido. So I'm asking you now to multitask. Herald Reuters, ladies and gentlemen, for the one who do not know yet, is the Deputy Director General of the Transport and Mobility Directorate of the European Commission. And today is the European Transport Days, so we are really happy, Herald, that we could have you here on the panel today. We know that you had an extremely busy day already up to now. When Herald is not working as a Deputy Director General for our Transport Directorates, you can find Herald on his bike. Because what I know is that Herald, as a true Dutchman, is cycling more than 2,000 kilometers per year. And you also told me that you're purchasing a new bike after COP as a reward for, a very successful COP. So maybe then you will be able to cycle 3,000 kilometers per year on your new bike. But anyway, Herald, welcome to you here. And let's kick it off with some opening statements. You will have 3 minutes to tell us basically what you think the role of the hydrogen valleys is in shaping the global hydrogen economy. And I will be monitoring time, Herald. So.
Thank you very much, Rosalind, and thank you for your very kind words. And indeed, I love cycling, which is also a matter that we push forward from our side in the framework of getting decarbonized. And in this COP, I think that is an important matter that we are pursuing. Rosalinda, today we are at the Transport Day in COP for the first time, and we have committed in the Commission to a Green Deal and a sustainable and smart mobility strategy, decarbonizing, Fit for 55. Legislations have been put in place. They are now really firm. They are there. They are the targets. And for sure, now the ambition will have to be to implement. So if we want to have 2% already of alternative fuels by 2025 for maritime and aviation sectors, ramping up to 6% by 2030, there is going to be a production that is quite important. And one of the pathways that we see very clearly, ladies and gentlemen, is also hydrogen valleys. Because in fact, we have been working on this together, Rosalinda, for quite a number of years, with Jorgo and with all of those who are in this room, to try to see that we can create synergies between production, transport, use. For instance, I remember very early cases like in Bolzano with the bus fleet, the hydrogen produced from hydropower, the bus fleet locally from the Bolzano City Council, developing that into a fueling or refueling station at the highway. This is the kind of, I say, local hydrogen valley at the very early days. The same with the wind power on the North Sea in Groningen, translating that into hydrogen that could be used for not only then also buses but also trains, and thereby stimulating the take-up, not just, I would say, theoretically of volumes, but into the users that are needed in the end. And hydrogen valleys, in my view, are absolutely necessary, because very often we have a discussion, yes, but who then will buy? Who will be the consumers, and how will it translate? I think that this has been a very good way forward. And I feel, Rosalinda, to conclude my initial statement, that this is still needed. This is still needed, because the local production and ramping up, like President von der Leyen has said, tripling the alternative fuels and the renewables in particular, we really have some hard work ahead of us. So let's continue, even if afterwards we will have to federate. But these synergies will be found for these valleys, I'm quite sure, in the future. Thank you, Rosalinda.
Very good. Thank you very much, Herald. Indeed, very important to underline the importance of these synergies, but also very happy to hear the early days valleys with some concrete examples of how important it is that we roll out the hydrogen economy across the whole value chain. So now it's my big pleasure to turn to our second panelist, Jorgo Chatzimarkakis, who is the CEO of Hydrogen Europe. I spent a bit of time this morning to remember how to pronounce your family name. I hope I did it correctly. But Jorgo, I think you have been, passionate about hydrogen, I think, even when you were still in diapers, no? I think that is more or less what I understood. I mean, you're really Mr. Hydrogen. And I also understood that you really developed this passion for hydrogen after you purchased a second-hand book about hydrogen of 2 francs. That is really very impressive. And I think the rest is history. So maybe, Jorgo, also from your perspective, how do you see the role of hydrogen valleys also in shaping the global hydrogen economy?
Many thanks for the invitation and for your nice words. It was 2 Deutschmark at the time. I grew up in Germany. And it was indeed a book that was called, in the beginning there was hydrogen, and I started as a pupil already to develop this interest and later on passion. Now, if you walk around here in COP28, you will see that hydrogen made quite a career as a concept. Yesterday, 30 states, big states, signed a joint agreement on standards, on certification, on building up a market. That's fantastic. We have nearly 150 events on hydrogen like this here on the COP. So that's really all fantastic. You see projects mushrooming everywhere in the globe, especially in Europe. But if you go for the so-called final investment decision, the FID, only 5% of all these projects have been FID'd. That means that they are all planned. They are not put into practice right now, because all of these projects have still a risk. Hydrogen is not yet a commodity. Hydrogen is not yet in too many buses. In some, yes. And you talked about Rockstar, hydrogen as a rockstar. I have the 2 rock stars that have helped to make hydrogen really a very important issue within the policy of the European Commission here, with Harald and you, Rosalinde. But we need to make sure that there is a de-risking factor. And the hydrogen valleys do something very, very simple. They bring together the people who produce and demand hydrogen at a very region, and then they connect the different regions, the valleys. And this is how you step by step can first of all bring production and demand together, and by the little money that we also put into it, you mentioned the 200 million euro extra on the program that was foreseen for hydrogen anyway. This is so important. Some people cannot understand how important that is, because Europeans are risk averse. They don't like risk. They want to have the safe thing. And this is where the hydrogen valleys, and I thank especially your commissioner, who took the decision to add these 200 million in order to see practical showcases, like you mentioned in Bolzano, all over Europe, not only restricted to mobility, of course, also to the use of hydrogen in industries, but also in heating, for instance. There are also examples for that. All over Europe in very concrete showcases. And this is what comes now. We see that. It helps immediately to de-risk and to bring all these projects into being. And this is why we are, I think, I'm a happy participant here, because it's a very important topic.
Thank you very much, Jorgo. And the very important message, de-risking, de-risking, and de-risking. Okay, so now we are going to move from the European Commission and Hydrogen Europe. We're going to zoom in a specific country. So I will be moving to you, José Antonio. You are the Director General of the Aragon Exterior Government of Aragon in Spain. And a warm welcome to you as well. And I would be very curious also to hear your perspective on hydrogen valleys from the regional perspective of Aragon.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation to this forum. And I agree with you. This is our case is a case of success somehow. Public-private sector all going together with the political support, of course. And this is the reason that one region of Spain is so important. It's the first one in our country and one of the best placed in Europe. Let me focus on what we have done here, because our efforts has been over the 4 years dedicated to this kind of development in renewable energies, okay? We are just 10% of our territory, but we produce almost 19% of its electricity from renewables last year, figures. And renewables account in our region 39% of our primary energy, which means that we are 9 years, 8 years, I don't know exactly, ahead of the European Union's 2030 targets for this kind. So this is a good example of collaborations. We are the 4th region in Spain in terms of industrial specialization that has supported a lot to create, you know, all the associations and all this way to the valleys. For more than half of a century, we have had hydrogen research centers in our region, but 20 years ago, in 2003, the commitment was intensified by our government. And we promote and provide resources for the creation of a tool that has really pushed the transformation in this field. A private non-profit entity, the Aragon Hydrogen Foundation, which today is owned by 90 companies and institutions of all sectors and sizes. Big ones representing the big electrical companies, but also the small ones, providing any kind of services there. And it has continued to provide ongoing support regardless of the political color of any kind of institution. So it has survived, which is very good. In 2010, this foundation built a large test bed, the first renewable hydrogen production facility, wind and solar, both energies, connected to the electricity grid in Europe. And we prove that the approach to hydrogen should consider the whole value chain. The fundamentals of the hydrogen valleys are to unite production, as all of you know, and consumption at the local level, to move to larger and larger scales of territory and new activities. And this is what we are aiming to. 2 years ago, our foundation identified a large valley with 80 projects, more than 77 agents, and requires some 3,000 million euros of investment in a time horizon up to 2037. So we have done our job, at least theoretically. This large valley has already joined forces with the 4 Spanish regions surrounding our region, Spanish ones, Catalonia, Basque Country, Navarra, and Navarre. Moreover, the working community of the Pyrenees, which more than 40 years of existence, has already signed a political declaration to unite the potentials and communicate through public and private initiatives this Spanish corridor with 2 other regions in the south of France, New Aquitaine and Occitania. The foundation has already worked of more than 200 European projects together in its history, with more than 50 Spanish and South American regions, collaborating in research and development, specialized training, pioneering projects to create a hydrogen-friendly substratum. It now participates as a partner in 6 of the large hydrogen valleys that the Clean Hydrogen Alliance is promoting in Europe. In line with this strategy, the S3 Hydrogen Valleys platform was born for European regions to share knowledge, collaborate, and undertake common projects. We see no other practical and realistic way of tackling the deployment of these technologies, which urgently requires a strong political will and clear involvement of the authorities, like we have done in our region. Thank you.
Very good. That's very impressive, José Antonio. Thank you for sharing this success story in Spain, where indeed you can already see how Hydrogen Valleys is connecting not only inside the country with other regions, but that also you're now crossing the borders with a neighboring country. So I think this is really a very impressive success story. And also thank you for sharing the importance of having the political support.
Yep.
I think this is also a very important learning for all the other valleys that are out there, that of course we also need to make sure that the local and national administrations are behind to really support these valleys in scaling up and further rolling out and connecting, of course, with other regions and also other countries. Great, so let's move now to our last speaker, Roberta. Last but not least, you are the Secretary General of Medenair, and I know that you have a passion for fostering the clean energy and climate transition in the Mediterranean region. And next to this passion, you also have a passion for yoga. I think that is a very good combination because I think we need to really, We are in a hurry. There's a sense of urgency to accelerate the transition, but at the same time, I think we need to keep our mindset also composed and cool. So I think there's a very good combination here. And Roberta, please, your perspectives on the role of hydrogen valleys to roll out the global hydrogen economy from the Mediterranean perspective.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to represent the Mediterranean region. In fact, I need a bit of yoga with the Mediterranean countries, and of course, it's very important the role of the hydrogen valley into boosting the hydrogen economy. But we are talking about a global now system, because it started in Europe. We have already 90. Our goal is to have 100 with the mission clean hydrogen innovation. But unfortunately, we don't have any hydrogen valley in the southern shore of the Mediterranean. This is very important for Europe to have a collaboration with the Mediterranean shore. Southern shore. And of course, we can say that there are in the Mediterranean a lot of studies, a lot of roadmaps, atlas, discussions, but what we really need in the southern countries is to have concrete demonstrations of how a hydrogen valley is functioning, including the production. Of course, this is a hydrogen supply chain, including production, transportation, handling, storage. They need to understand the countries. Of course, they are a bit far away from our experiences, and it's really not easy to involve them because, of course, of the political and economical situation there. There are countries that are oil and gas producers, so it's not very easy, even if many of them have already the hydrogen national strategies in place. So, of course, it's not just the green hydrogen. They should start with blue hydrogen, of course, and this is. But according to the European Union, I would like to recall the strategies at the Mediterranean level of DG neighboring, because the new agenda for the Mediterranean. And in fact, the partnership, Mediterranean partnership, remains a strategic imperative for a European Union. So this is very relevant. And also in the communication, there's a new focus on clean hydrogen production. And it's really highlighted that there is the aspiration to have at least 40 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity in the EU southernhood. So I think it is a big challenge. And of course, we are all engaged in this challenge, particularly with our organizations that representing the northern and the southern shore of the Mediterranean. And this is a bit what's the framework there.
Very good. Thank you so much, Roberta, for sharing your experience here. And I think indeed it is very important, like with Repower, we said we want to double the number of valleys in the EU and also spread them equally, because there's also an element of inclusion in the energy transition. We need to leave no place and no region behind. And this is also why in the context of the mission innovation mission on clean hydrogen, we will be focusing on supporting also non-mission innovation countries in developing the hydrogen valleys there. So thank you for reminding us for that. Let's quickly go back to the Slido poll. And this looks very good and fits very well, Harold, with the Transport Day, because our audience has identified transportation as one of the key challenges for actually rolling out hydrogen valleys. So Harold, that is a nice segue back to you, actually. So maybe you can also react to this if you want, but otherwise I would like to ask you, what message would you like to pass to neighboring countries that have expressed an interest in exporting clean hydrogen to the EU? And how do you see the role of the neighboring countries in this?
Rosalind, I'm of course very happy to see on the EU Transport Day this Slido outcome. That's very nice. I refer to what I said in my opening statement. The volumes that are needed are defined, so we know where we have to go. So that's I think giving a very clear framework. But how to make, I would say, a step in scaling up. I mean, also Jorgo has highlighted already a number of areas which are difficult. And also in the Hydrogen Week, I've been highlighting a few from my side as well, which I think are difficult and will still be difficult for a while, whilst we do not have a lot of time, because by 2030 we need to be already having certain volumes. So if I'm thinking where they are most needed, and you're right, Rosalind, in stressing the synergies, it's not just about transport, it's also about energy, this is about use cases in industry, perhaps even more than when I was citing buses, because we have 200 hydrogen buses in Europe, but frankly speaking is nothing. So we really need to scale up. So scaling up is an issue. When I would think where we can find synergies with transport is, for instance, we should be developing much more the principle of hydrogen valleys also with our ports system. Ports are more and more becoming energy hubs. And when you are thinking also about the Mediterranean and the southern shore, I'm missing that a bit. So can we find synergies in future valleys, Rosalinde? Can we, through also the policy that we have with the 10T, push that we have a very good distribution network with hydrogen valleys through our port systems and the production onshore and on sea. That would be something I would like to give along. And I'm also translating it into another matter, Rosalinde. We, of course, now with this COP and the stock taking are going to launch the new stock taking for the next 5 years. Corresponds quite nicely to the new mandate of the Commission, corresponds also to budgetary planning. And I come back again to what Jorg also said. So apart from the obstacles like for instance, the permitting, the procedures, and certain technical obstacles, another one is de-risking and the money that will be available. So here as well, also hearing the two regional partners, we do need to take into account already now what is needed in the next period until 2030. So can we combine fundings, or can we find a resilient system between the different funds that would allow to pass the scale-up phase? Because I'm quite confident once we are in 2030, we're at 6%, there will be more market, as Jorgo put it. But until there, I think that instruments like we are sharing, Rosalinde, whether it's Horizon Europe or CEF, but we need, I think, more blending, for instance, with InvestEU type of instruments, guarantee instruments, in order to get there. Otherwise, I see a real risk of achieving the goals that have been now enshrined in law. So, yeah.
Thank you, Gerald. And talking about investments, suddenly we see that some more colleagues have contributed to Slido, and higher costs are now in competition with transportation as a key challenge. And I mean, I agree with you there, and I hope that you didn't miss it, that a few days ago it was actually our Executive Vice President, Mr. Šefčovič, who has announced 2 big projects that we are financing under the EU Catalyst Partnership, where indeed we are bringing together money from Horizon Europe, Innovation Fund, InvestEU, so grants and blended finance, together with private sector equity investments. And I do agree, indeed, we need to pool together, different funding sources and also different financial instruments to scale up. So Jorgo, going back to you as the representative of the hydrogen industry, how do you see the role of industry in really ensuring that we can massively deploy and scaling up the hydrogen valleys? What will you do as industry to deliver this?
Yeah, I also would like to comment this Slido result here, because transportation could also mean the transportation of the hydrogen or its carriers, which brings us directly back to ports. You mentioned the ports, which are a very, very important part of the whole system, or pipeline systems. And that's at the very beginning of this valley idea, to have different hubs to connect them via also pipelines or via rail system that brings hydrogen from one place to the other. What the industry is doing in order to make this happen is to create some more predictability. First of all, to have the products. We need the hydrogen buses. We need the ammonia ships that will bring ammonia or even e-methanol from parts of the world where it's cheaper and easier to produce them, like here, like in the Emirates, where it's much easier and will happen faster to produce them. And then take these ports, the port route, Rotterdam was mentioned, Antwerp needs to be mentioned, Hamburg, all these ports that will be industrial hubs where then we as industry play the role to build up a sector. So my association, Hydrogen Europe, when I personally started 8 years ago, had some 35, 38 members. Today we have 530 members, encompassing not only industry but also the regions. The region of Aragon here is one of the players. We have, you are also represented in our board. And why is it so important? Because the industrial scaling up and teaming up, because the sector did not exist. We have many companies that were before that not partners, because one was producing hydrogen, the other one was off-taking. We need both. We need also the ones who transport it. This is shaping, creating a new sector together with the regions. And also the national associations, which are also part of our membership. And the regions play an integral part, because in some cases, they have fiscal power, like in Spain. You could reduce, and some of your regions have done it, the VAT on hydrogen activities. Fantastic. So this is an incentive to go into that region. And we will help our industries to understand this is the region to go, because you have better investment conditions there. But again, the most important part is, to be honest to you, is not the lobbying, the advocacy. It's to shape this, to bring partners together. They not necessarily always have the same idea about hydrogen. So you have electrolyzer producers who say we only want green. You have, of course, off-takers in the industry who say we need it faster. We need some blue. And this is different interests that we need to bring together in order to help. And again, my big thank goes to the Hydrogen Valley idea, because it really accelerates in cooperation with the regions this process of shaping this new industry. It's a new industry that needs this support.
Beautiful. So I will now take your message of bringing different actors together, and I will expand it a bit to the international level. So again, the Clean Hydrogen mission of Mission Innovation is doing the same thing, bringing actors together, but then also at a global level. And I would like to go back to you, Jose Antonio, because you're a member, Spain is a member of the Clean Hydrogen mission, and I would like to hear from you how you think that the Mission Innovation Clean Hydrogen mission can help to also facilitate the global trade in hydrogen.
I agree, first of all, with Giorgio about what he's telling. Partnership is essential, in all plans, to achieve everything. So let me tell you that at least 5 valleys, new valleys are advertised in Spain by the time being. But there are some others at different stages of maturity. So we aspire as a country, not only the region, to be a net exporter of hydrogen to its great renewable potential. It has a lot of companies, our country, at the world level, and a heavy industry network suitable for large-scale consumption. We have a privilege also, which is very important, of a geostrategic position in our country. We know that the planet Earth is spherical, but if we look at the world traffic of goods, we will understand that Spain has a very high logistical potential. The Iberian Peninsula, located between Europe and Africa, surrounded by sea and linked to Asia by the Suez Canal, has always been a privileged bridge between the two sides of the Atlantic, as far as you know. I cannot omit that in the capital of Aragon, we have, as I said before, one of the largest logistics platforms in Southern Europe, which means that the entire network of ports and energy infrastructure is well mixed. The H2 Med, talking about the Mediterranean, the great hydrogen pipeline from Portugal and Spain by Barcelona to Marseille, and from there to Central Europe, Germany mainly, is currently at a very advanced stage of approval at the IPCEI, Project of Common European Interest, as far as you know. So I think I have mentioned 4 of the major elements that will be essential. Leadership and involvement of large industry for production and consumption, the presence of large consumption or small but close to production as a transitory path towards large markets. In the case of the Aragonese approach, the potential is renewables and the factors of logistical location. There are two others. On the one hand, lower cost, so high cost. I will try to explain that it's the opposite in my gentle opinion and kind opinion. And the other is the large alliances. Cost will be lowered by economies of scale and fundamentally by research and development, which is a key factor, which is making great progress. Research and development will make it possible to squeeze the full potential of renewables to lead to sustainability. I repeat what I said before, and all the above with the strong political will and involvement of the authorities. This is a key point also. I reiterate that partnership will be needed across the board, which is why the clean hydrogen mission is essential. And we believe it because we have experienced it. Our foundation in Aragon already has a facility that produces at €2 per kilogram, which is of course amortized thanks to the well-applied co-financing from the European Union through the aforementioned more than 200 cooperation projects. So we can reduce this cost. And we must not forget new developments that I think we have to say here in this forum that may hold great surprises for us. For example, native hydrogen. We, in Aragon again, mining research is being attempted for a native hydrogen deposit of 5 billion tons per year, obviously with international investors. Aragon, just for briefing, started our path 20 years ago in which it has not stopped working hard. But now we are more excited than ever. This task that unites us here deserves an international innovation mission.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And let's stay a bit more international and move back now to the Mediterranean region. So Roberta, for you, is the Mediterranean region, in your opinion, prepared to integrate hydrogen and to play also a role in the global perspective of rolling out the global hydrogen economy?
It's a tricky question. Prepared is a big word for the Mediterranean, also for the countries that are, many of them, not all of them, for example, Morocco, Tunisia, they are not producers, so it's a completely different situation. We have to consider each country and each economy and also political situation, so there are a lot of different issues. Actually, they prepared their national strategies based on the different, of course, economies, and all of the countries would. In this case, they are a bit in competition one with the other, so it's important to strengthen this effort, and they base their national strategies very often on blue hydrogen instead of green hydrogen, of course. But they have a big potential for renewable energy, and in particular solar energy and wind. And moreover, their renewable energy installed capacity is growing each year more and more. So these are good premises for possible green hydrogen valleys. But of course, we have to take into consideration also their situation. It's also important to say that in their strategies, there is a phase starting now until 2030 for many of them of demonstration and piloting, and they need the collaboration, the cooperation, also to foster research and innovation, also to consider the possibility of talking together about de-risking, about financing, about the regulatory aspects that are very important here, and I mean licensing, permitting, they are all topics that we could work together at. And in particular, we would need a strong Euro-Mediterranean cooperation. And I fully agree with the concept of putting together different kinds of funds for the region. That could be coming from mission innovation, a clean hydrogen mission, but also from the, let's say, from the funds for the neighboring. So there could be a combination. It's also very important in the region to training, the training, education, and the technology transfer, and to work together, for example, to a kind of knowledge and innovation community in the region, in the Mediterranean region, to create the generation of the future, also starting from universities and going to the industry, to the technology transfer. So this is a bit our idea, together with our colleagues, of course, of our Medener agencies.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Roberta. And also thank you for raising the importance of education and skills development, which is, of course, also a crucial ingredient
Yes.
to roll out the hydrogen economy. So we have also received a question from the audience, and we have a little bit of time left. So I will ask this question because I think it's a very important one. It was anonymous. So if you're out there or maybe here in the audience, thank you for this very good question. Because the question is, do you see hydrogen valleys as local ecosystems to help the regional communities and the SMEs? Or instead, do you see them as large-scale projects and only in big nodes? I think, Jorgo, I think this is a question that maybe you want to answer first.
Absolutely both. It's not either or. I mean, the region of Aragon here is a good example that research, innovation in the region as such plays a very important role. Javier in our board advocates this really heavily, so can be proud of him. If we go to the region of Antwerp or Port of Rotterdam, that's a region that has, of course, another scope. So there's the industrial implementation of things so important. And I agree that we need to invite in our valley concept the Mediterranean partners. I admit we met before, and we had with Roberta also wonderful meetings during the COP and also today. And it's crystal clear that we as Northern Europeans will not make it if we don't include the southern Mediterranean partners by joint valleys, and this is possible. I have to say this is possible. So we will also see valleys that are, I'm from Crete, so Cretan and Egyptian valley will be possible, which is absolutely good. But also to together elaborate on the skills, because we are developing not only a new industry, we need also new talents, skilled and upskilled, reskilled in certain professions. It's not academic only, it's also vocational training which we need to do. We are building up a hydrogen academy now within the European Union. It would be great to include into the valley concept the issue of skills. I have had wonderful events during this COP with young ladies, engineers, chemists, especially also from this region here, being absolutely eager to work in this field. And this is what we need to do. And the Valley concept, again, Rosalinde, I thank you for that, opens these doors.
Thank you, Jorgo. So in short, both. I mean, just to... Okay, very good. We're almost at the end of the session, but some of you may have noticed that I have the Clean Hydrogen Partnership pen here. And this is not just a pen. It's actually a magic wand. And this means that you can make a wish. And I would like to ask all the panelists to take this pen and to make a wish. So if you could realize something in 1 year from now, so when we are at the next COP, what would you like to see that has happened at the global context when it comes to hydrogen valleys? So who would like to start making it wish? It's one sentence, because you only have one wish. I see Harold is still thinking. Ah, no, you dare to go first. But you have to wave it, Harold, to have real magic.
Okay. I would wish, Rosalinde, that the hydrogen valleys would gather in order to seek the synergies between them. So in a big hydrogen valleys meeting, to scale and be at the next COP29 presenting how would you say, joined ambition for the next stage.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a big applause for the wish of Herald. That's beautiful. Thank you for that.
Very simple. Next COP to be hydrogen COP, with a big pledge on hydrogen, and of course a meeting of global united hydrogen valleys, which evolve based on the idea of the European Commission.
Very good. Thank you.
I have to say, the knowledge and innovation community for the Mediterranean, taking into consideration the triangle of knowledge. So education, research, industry together for the next generations of the future.
Thank you.
I should finish that next COP, of course, more valleys announced in all our countries, more partnerships with other regions, mainly Mediterraneans,
Yes.
that will create a real ecosystem of the hydrogen in Europe. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yes, of course I want it back. So now my wish is that you all have learned a lot from this session, that you are convinced about the importance of hydrogen valleys, to roll them out, to connect them across the globe. And I wish you a wonderful rest of the transport days. Thank you very much.
You take a photo all together?
Yes, let's.